why. I could be wrong, but it seems to make sense. So anyway, the reason why I mention that is because they've created these artificial bodies, right? These physical avatars that we got, okay? And they've locked us inside here. And the reason why is because they've trapped our ability to perceive the greater reality in this physical body, right? So let's say the ability to perceive reality is more than 5 senses. They've limited us to 5 senses. You understand? So feel, taste, touch, smell, and what's the other one? Smell, touch, taste, hear, feel. There we go. That's all 5. So the reason that we have a limited understanding of the playground that we live in is because our reality or our perception of reality is dictated by the 5 senses, right? And these 5 senses are limitation, which are meant to give a primary focus on the physical world, right? Because if you can only perceive your reality by the rules of the physical world, then all you're going to think normally is that the physical world is all there is. And we are lured to emulating the ways of the physical world and becoming either animals or machines. But either way, we lose our spirit or our humanity when you only start to play by 5, All right, ready? So let me just finish up and then and we keep going, right? So, all right. So this is more or less that dimension where these beings where would I put it? Okay, where beings like this are manipulating the time-space continuum, right? So this is the level that they're playing at, or the dimension that they do that at. Okay, so we've gone through even a brief history. So you got Crookes tube proves electrons are particles, right? So electrons are something physical. So I've used electrons to represent the flat Earth, and then you got the different polarities which represent the torus vortex, okay? The torus vortex is composed of opposite electromagnetic fields, right? A reaction. So in order to get a reaction, you need 2 opposites. Okay, north and south magnetic orientation. This is how all torus fields form around matter. So it doesn't matter if it's a human body. It doesn't matter if it's an animal. It doesn't matter if it's a plant. If it has electromagnetism. This is how the forms take shape. Okay? It's like having 2 bowls facing each other. All right? Well, see? Bowl magnetic fields are intrinsic properties of all matter. See, I was just saying that. All right? So I'm not going to give you everything. This is for another time. Right? So you can just see I have down here, this is why they use CERN. So I'll give you this here. Matter cannot exist unless these magnetic waves are there to form or confine it. Right. So in order for matter to start to materialize, it needs a boundary to confine it or keep it locked into, right? Now we know electromagnetism or spirit is that what that controls or combines the physical world, right? Influences the physical world. So this has to do with what this is saying, right? What is this saying? This is telling you that these beings, whatever beings these were, known as the Lords, they were free from the space-time continuum, and they were able to manipulate the free energy or the electromagnetic spectrum in order for them to create the world which we live in. And they created it as they willed or as they wanted, right? Outstripping in science they all the races, mighty in wisdom, sons of the stars. Like time I pause, watching their wisdom, right? This reminds me of Enoch, watching the angels do what they do. I saw them create from out the ether. Create from out the electromagnetic field. What did I tell you? Matter cannot exist unless these magnetic waves are there to form or confine it. Right? So these beings, being made of the ether themselves, use the ether to create what? Form forth from the primal element. Right? The primal element. Okay? So it was electromagnetism, which is the primal element, which was needed to create something physical. All these things which they call particles. Okay? So we write, changing the geometry of the field emitters changes the matter around it. Okay, so changing the frequency or the sound, this has to do with, what is it called? Cymatics. That's what it's called. So dealing with cymatics and sacred geometry and the creation, everything was spoken into existence, right? Now, the Most High speaks something into existence, that's sound or that's light, right? We know that light in itself is a form of what? Electromagnetism. So you're seeing the Most High spoke everything into existence. He spoke the ethereal field, the possibilities he spoke into existence, including these type of beings he spoke into existence, and these beings, the representative creator. See, of Zechariah 3, go look it up. These representative beings were the ones in Genesis who were creating in their image. Is it making sense now? Why the Sumerian text and our text beginning to make sense? Okay? Let us make man in our image. Starting to make sense. Except this God is the one that created Adam and Eve. Right, where is it? Adam and Eve. It was this God who on his behalf created bodies for Adam and Eve, right? Who are separate beings from these other type of beings, Homo capensis, that the other gods had made. Are you starting to see it? Okay? So this is why you saw me do the post on sacred geometry. Well, some people probably didn't even pay attention. Where man was made, like in this Emerald Tablets, it mentions the flower of life. You're going to see that a lot. And when you look up the flower of life, you'll begin to realize that the Sephiroth, which is a representative of man, can be pulled out of the flower of life. So that sacred geometric design of the Sephiroth can be pulled out of the sacred geometric design of the flower of life. Why is that relevant? Was not man made from the dust of the earth? Is dust only physical or is it energetic? What did I just get done telling you? What did I just get done telling you? Right? Particles or the Crookes tubes are proves that electrons are particles. Right? They just need, in order for matter to form, it needs electromagnetism to confine it, to trap it, right? To limit it. Okay, what I just got done telling you. You know what I mean? Like, in order for matter to function or form, there needs to be something to control it. So that's what the sacred geometry has to do with, right? Increasing space. No, we don't need to read that part. Okay, see, I wrote down CERN. CERN also uses the bowl shape, right? There's a reason why CERN is designed in the same way. Okay, all the other pantheons, like the Vault of Heaven, isn't it? It's called the Vault of Heaven, the Pantheon of Rome, right? You got all the U.S. Capitol Dome. They use this shape. St. Paul's Cathedral. You know, the building, the design for this is everywhere. So they hide the symbols for it out in the open. All right, so that's enough of that. See, I was going to get into this. See, electromagnetic plane Earth. Right, so I've even got a few hashtags where it's like electromagnetic flat Earth, geocentrism or some shit like that. I forget. Right, but we go through the history. So I give you the scientific history of the difference between heliocentrism, geocentrism. That we'll go through another time. My man UB News is doing his documentary on the flat Earth. So y'all can wait for that. And I'll probably try and cook up my own little presentation where I'm going to do everything from top to bottom. But that's for another time. But as you can see, there's even more. We go down from, all of this shit. So who was battling Copernicus? Who battled Galileo? Who was against Kepler? Who was against Newton? Who was against Einstein? We go through all of that. Show the options. Okay. So that's for another time. What else is there? Y'all seen this already? So this is this. So the caste system, right? How they run the flat Earth. So there's a reason why I chose a square or a cube. Okay, because this is how they operate, the cube or the tesseract. So the four corners. So that's all it represents. Right? What else is there? We got other information. See, blacks and Negroes have no standing in corporate legal law. The 13th Amendment remodified. So we've got this here in order to get into this section if we need to. We showed how this and this legal law, right? How we have no legal standing in legal law. Okay, and how the minority groups, these fake minority groups came in and fucked us over. Right? And this is how the minority groups were able to come in and fuck us over. It was the homosexuals that came in and did it. And then from the homosexual agenda, we'll destroy the feminism and sexual lib agenda. And from outside of those, we're going to show how they're all under the umbrella of the transsexual agenda. So you're going to start to see that. What else we got here? All right. So some of the books that I've been reading, I've done book reviews for them. So this book is on neuroplasticity, the mind and the brain, neuroplasticity, mental force, and James Schwartz, right? So I read this so that I was able to complete this part of my project, right? So now I'm able to tell you what the scripture means by the Lord will give you a new heart and a new mind. It's talking about the process of neuroplasticity. And what is that? The ability for you to change the way that you process things, right? So the Creator is all about maintaining perfection or the pursuit of perfection. So, you're never going to be perfect within this realm, but the closest thing you can get to perfection is constantly upkeeping or making up for certain things or doing better. And that's more or less what the Torah tells you, is that we constantly aim to do better, right? And neuroplasticity or mental force is one of those things that you can learn about in order to give yourself added motivation to do better, right? And we can go through this another time, okay? This is just a quick review. Okay, I'm going to finish this section, but I've got it written down in something else. But RH negatives and the blood types. I should have brought the other book. But the other book, I'd be having it be filled out with all notes. Okay, what else we got? Alright, so cloning, artificial life forms, synthetics, organics. So like this having to do with artificial life forms and cloning and the use of DNA. I've still got to read the rest of this material. And then I've got to write the rest of it and put it here so that I can throw this shit away. Alright, but we almost had this section done. If you want to do it yourself, this is one of the sources, Dr. Peter David Beater. Okay. This is other stuff we're going to get into. Lucifer, the man who sought to be Yah. So Lucifer is Nimrod. So a lot of people don't realize that Lucifer is Nimrod. Okay. But we're going to teach that. So a lot of people don't know that the anointed cherub, Lucifer, and devil and Satan are three different characters. Three different characters. Okay. All right. So this is the breakdown for it. This is also the breakdown of of there being a pre-Adamites. So remember I was talking about who are these beings that the we created, or the us. There was a different time period. So in Genesis 1:1, Yah created only two places. Right, Psalm 148, you got the heavens and the earth. There's only two places of existence. Okay, you got heavens and you got earth, spirit and matter. Okay, so we'll get into these breakdowns on whether or not are the angels highly technologically advanced men. And I've begun to think about that because as I look into the eighth dimension and their ability to manipulate the time-space continuum and travel or time travel or make it appear as they can time travel or manipulate things, I've begun to wonder whether or not angels are actually a version of man in a time period before our own, and then they went on to create their own version of man. So I've begun to wonder that, you know what I mean? I've looked at the Sumerian text. I'm probably going to try and read the Epic of Gilgamesh over just so I can get a better understanding before I start to teach that. Okay. So you can see that there. See heavenly waters, Shemayim. And it's funny because when you look at the wave field, or if you Google wave field, it kind of looks like an ocean. So I would expect it to be a spiritual ocean. What's this? Okay, this is the other thing I got to draw. So this has to do with thing I was saying before about the different ages of men. Okay, so remember I got the ages of men here. All right, here, and then I was going to finish it by doing the rest here. Okay, the ages of men, right? So perhaps this golden age right here was the age of the angels, where the angels were being tested just like man is being tested today. So perhaps that is the case. Okay. Reclassification of the children of Yah. So this is a breakdown of Deuteronomy 28:37 specifically, right? And this has to do with all the stuff you see as sharing all the time. Virginia Act 1682, paper genocide, Walter Plecker, 1960 civil rights. So I did a brief miniature historical go-through with this. And then I also did the calculating of the transatlantic slave trade, myth of what they tell us versus what is actually true. So that's done there. I mean, I've got different sections of the project finished, and this ain't the only book. Where is it? Yeah, we got things like lower preservation, fight or flight. See, here's some more electromagnetism with the cloaking devices, liquid crystal pole. See, like all of this stuff, we'll start to get back into. And then what I'll do is I'm going to deliver some of that stuff, and I'm going to take a break for quite a while. But I'll deliver this portion, and then y'all can repost it and make it spread, right? So this has to do with moral and spiritual agents. So we break down the needing for morals and ethics. So that's part of the reason why you see my refusal to link up with a lot of other people who maybe they aren't on the Torah just yet. Because there's no point. You can either come to the Torah or you get left behind. And it's a matter of you got to be in tune with one another morally and ethically. If we don't have the same morals and ethics, it's not going to work out. So that's why I be telling them unifying around skin complexion is stupid. Because somebody with the same skin complexion as you may be immoral. Do you understand? They may be a white person in a Negro body. So you gotta choose carefully. And this is part of the section which is designed to help people with the ability to choose better. Right? So you got here, I just give you the breakdown. So what do you need in order to make a moral judgment? You need to have a consciousness. So in other words, you need to be a fourth dimensional being, at least an animal. You got to at least be an animal or have an animal mind in order for you to be cognizant of what right and wrong is. Right? And then on top of that, you must have the free will in order to choose whether you want to follow or not follow. Right? And this is the thing that everybody's missing when they want to blame the Creator, for why the world is doing so shitty, when in fact he gave us free will. So you're choosing to do what you do with, the life force that you've been given, and you obviously are not using your conscience in order to maximize your choices. So in other words, the Most High allowed you to do what you did. He put you in a sandbox. He told you these are the rules. And he wants to see if you're a product who's going to be a good product. Because when somebody creates something, your creation always has a purpose. You don't create things without a purpose. So if it has a purpose, then if you give it free will, you want to see if it's going to maintain its purpose. And that's more or less why the Most High got us here. Okay, so this here, spiritual agents. You got to realize what your body is. So this outer shell is limited to 5 senses, right? And those 5 senses are manipulated by your free will, your hormones, and your emotions, right? And then outside of your physical body and the responsibilities to this physical vessel that we have, you got a responsibility to your main vessel, your mind or your spirit. Okay, your lower self. Okay, and then you got your internal spirit. Okay, and this is your conscience. This is the divine source, the things that gives you the energy to wake up and live how you live in this reality. You understand what I'm saying? You're more than just your own mind. You got the eternal battery, in your chest. You got the electromagnetic spark. Okay? All right. So you got different things like this. All right, you see symbols can be neutral. So you see this is a sigil of the Baphomet, but it doesn't necessarily have to have the evil energetic intention, right? Because all symbols are used by the Creator both neutrally. Okay? So you got morality or moral law. This is why all the pro-black groups can't unify. Okay? And what was I telling you about the fourth dimension. Okay, so you got perfect darkness or inanimateness, not having the ability to move. That is the third dimension, right? Like this table, third dimension. Okay, and then from outside of the third dimension, you start to get into your mind, right? The mind is the beginning of the fourth dimension. So animals also have a mind. They also think as well as operate off of DNA instructions, right? The physical instructions. Okay? So this is that wilderness, right? The fourth dimension is really you trying to find your perfect state. What do you think Ezekiel 37 is talking about? The dry bones, right? They're dry bones. They're spiritually dead. They're third dimensional. They're at the very least, they're fourth dimensional, right? That means they're animalistic, animal-minded. They don't know anything other than the five senses and that reality they've been locked into. Now, when you study the Torah, you begin to move yourself closer to the fifth dimension. Are you understanding? Right? And the fifth dimension is the mastery of what? The fifth dimension is the mastery of free will and right and wrong. The mastery of the ability to make judgment. You understand? So fourth dimension is realizing there's right and wrong and realizing you have free will. That's the fourth dimension. Fifth dimension is mastering free will. The responsibility of having free will. Right? And then once you understand that you have free will and you're responsible for all the decisions that you make, then it becomes, well, what decision am I going to make? Right? And that's the ability to have the conscious awareness of what right and wrong is. So if you don't know what right and wrong is, then guess what? You will never have an ability to get to the fifth dimension. So for everybody that's like, well, Ma'at came before Torah, well, guess what? Ma'at is incomplete because it's not telling you what you can't do. It's only telling you what you can do. That's incomplete. There are do's and don'ts in this realm. Do you understand? Somebody give you incomplete instructions, you're never going to find your destination. Ever. Okay, so y'all can keep following Ma'at if you want to, but you'll at best, you'll stay a fourth dimensional being. You'll never get up here. Okay? Okay, so there's certain sections of the project I'll just wait to deliver to you. This is the trap, right? Well, the trap is kind of... See, I still got to write out the rest of this. This is the first initial copy. All right. But this is the two moral traps. So this is moral law. What do you have? You have nothing but opinions, lower self, materialism, animalistic, what's relative, right? Not what's correct. So people on this side will more tell you how they feel about things. They're not going to tell you what it is the case. Right? And then you got moral laws. So this is where you have the ability of understanding. Here you have no understanding. When somebody tells you there's no laws, you make your own rules. Right? What are you going to think? You're just going to go out there and do what you want. You don't care. But when somebody tells you, hey man, you need to comply with this, right? You need to obey the rules. There are limitations, right? You can't go too far in this thing. You either did wrong, or you apologize for it, or you don't apologize. Do you see how you got a choice? Within this realm, you have a choice. There's always a choice, and you're responsible for the choice you make. So if you do wrong, this is the result. You see, cause, effect. You see how that worked? Cause, effect, cause, effect. Weren't we just talking about? Didn't we just mention initiate a reaction, cause and effect? Weren't we just talking about that? See how everything come full circle? Okay. All right, we'll get into that stuff later. Right, and then you got from the moral and spiritual laws, you begin to create laws for villages or combinations of people. So the idea is you enforce the law within yourself, then you enforce the law within your family, then you enforce the law within your village, then you enforce the law within your community, then you enforce the law within your city, then you enforce the law within your state, then you enforce the law within your country, and then you enforce the law throughout the entirety of the planet. And this is why the Most High had selected particular individuals, right, who created groups of people, who formulated a nation, and that nation was to be used to get the rest of the world back in accord. You understand? But it starts with all the individuals first. So that's why it doesn't make sense everybody saying, oh, well, we should throw all our money into one pot and centralize. No, that's exactly what your enemy is doing. Your enemy is centralizing everything. The only thing we centralize around is the Creator. That's it. We don't centralize around no man-made system, no man in self, no woman.